Welcome back. I will be reacting to part 2. Remember, this is a commentary. It is not a market substitute. Please support the original.
Come and sit over here, General, will you?
Where do you come from tonight? What detachment are you?
Yorkshire. West Riding, most of us. Good night, General.
Good night. Your misinformation, Murdoch, is typical.
Thank you, sir.
4 pages.
General Candy,
Yes?
urgent message from Major Van Zyl, sir. Came over the wire from mile 14. They've mended the line, sir.
War is
War
over.
is over.
That's it, sir.
Clean fighting, honest soldiering have won. God bless you, Murdoch.
Sir.
Oh, that was powerful because they had the sound going in the background continually, and then to have it stop. And now they're putting the birds in. Very good sound design there. Oh, how pretty.
How can you be so sure? I'm 20 years older than you are.
Yeah, I
and
was
I'm a
thinking
soldier.
that.
I was arranging a ball for the benefit of those nurses of the West Riding who had taken part in the 4-year struggle. I said to myself, there is a man whose heart is in the right.
So that's how he found her.
And I am glad
Clever.
Let this whole house be our den where we can always crawl, whether we return with rich spoils or badly mauled from our rovings, or just to change our spots.
I'm so worried that she's not going to make it. The dogs are so cute. Wait, what about the dogs?
I wasn't expecting you so early, sir.
Well, Murdoch, this is the wife.
So you're Murdoch.
Yes, madam.
Is he his Batman?
Yes, sir.
Ah!
Yes, Oberst Kretschmer Schuldorf, 2nd Regiment Uhlans of Guards.
I'd love to meet him.
That could be awkward though. I mean, when he finds out she's a doppelganger?
Message, sir, from the Commandant's office.
Excuse me, sir, but I don't...
Your answer.
It's because of what that other chap did. They needed information and they didn't actually show the scene on screen, but they implied, because I think he was like in 30 seconds and then they cut to another scene. And I was guessing what he was probably going to do in 30 seconds. And that's probably why his friend was so upset, because those were like his kids, kind of, in a way. He felt responsible for them. And he's probably furious about what happened.
Why is very much printed like that?
It was a joke we had.
For years and years, they're writing and dreaming beautiful music and beautiful poetry. All of a sudden, they start a war. And then they sit down in the same butcher's uniform and listen to Mendelssohn and Schubert. Something horrid about that.
Something human.
Yes, I'm going home. Is there such a thing left in Germany?
Oh, I almost wish we had no children.
What?
Oh, what future can children have in a beaten country?
And why do I not trust him all of a sudden?
I'm a beggar, like the rest of all the professional soldiers in our army. The beaten country can't have an army, so what are we going to do? This childlike stupidity is a raft for us in a sea of despair. Do you know what my friend the General Candy said? Don't you worry, old chap. We soon have German on their feet again.
Yeah, he changed to too much. We are covering so much time. I figured. This is a beautiful way to show that, all the empty pages that he never filled.
My outlook of life is against the Nazis.
Most refugees left Germany early in 1933 when Hitler came to power.
Please, I mean no offense, but you in England took 5 years.
He's not wrong.
Are you married?
My wife is dead.
Oh no.
Children?
They're good Nazis.
Yeah.
Money lost its value. The price of everything rose. except of human beings. None of my sons came to her funeral.
Oh,
The faces of a party of distinguished men round the table who tried their utmost to comfort me when the defeat of my country seemed to me unbearable. I remembered the English countryside, the gardens, the green
this is a
lawns,
beautiful performance.
and a great desire came over me to come back to my wife's country.
Oh, come on. You can't be unmoved by that.
Yes, I did send him a letter, but I suppose he...
Murdoch, tell Miss Cannon to be here by 11:45.
Very good, sir. Who is Miss Cannon?
Miss Cannon, my driver, MTC.
Do you remember, Clive, we used to say, our armies are fighting for our women, our children, and our homes. Now the women are fighting beside the men.
There were a ton of female drivers in World War One. They also actually were more a part of the military in some areas. For example, the Navy, we had Yeoman F. This is something I know a bit about because I do historical interpreting. There were so many women involved. And I think the yeomen were the coolest, so that's the uniform I tried to reproduce. The favorite thing I read from the time period was one young woman wanted to do something for the war effort. And her parents were like, sure, yeah, go out and find something to do. Expecting her to come back with, like, I don't know, knitting or something. She returned saying, so I joined the Navy. And they're like, I'm sorry, what? It hadn't even crossed their mind because it was such a new thing. There's also a brilliant lesbian novel, The Well of Loneliness. I think it was published in 1929. I've read it a few times, but honestly, it's very depressing and yet deeply moving. And the first part of the book is when the two women meet each other, and it is during the Great War. And what the author is propounding is actually that inverts, as they were called at the time period, they basically had to hide who they were, except during the war, where there were bigger problems going on. And it's really after the war when they come home, and as a couple, it's really difficult to function in that time period. And the end is heartbreaking. I won't spoil it for you. But the point is, it's very unusual to be talking about the Great War not having women involved. In World War II is when all the women showed up. It's not accurate. Here's one of the cartoons. They were jokingly called yeomanettes. Here's one of the early posters. There's a lot of kind of more casual photos too. This is one of those. The hat was probably the most difficult thing to do. I ended up finding a local artist who specialized in making hats, and we looked through a ton of photos and finally managed to find the right straw and recreated it. But it was not easy. Here's another fun picture. There's plenty of formal ones, but these are my favorite, of just them being silly and hanging out. I remember I had to get the patch, I think, off eBay, and we were having a bidding war going on, and I'm like, I just want this for my uniform. I need to hunt some down of me in the jacket. This is one without the jacket on, and it had been a long day, so I'm a little bit messed up. Someday I actually need to wear the uniform and do a proper photo shoot. All of these were just taken randomly. But you see the point I'm getting at. I did not want to let this line pass without speaking up for all the women who helped in World War I.
Well, I thought it was written all over my face when I left Berlin in '02.
You forget I never saw your face after you'd left.
I was in love with her, your wife.
She never told me.
She never knew. All my life, I've been looking for a woman like her.
That is
She's
lovely.
very lovely.
I'm glad they mended things, but now I'm worried. Something's gonna happen.
I never drove before the war.
What? Again?
What made you learn it?
My
What
boyfriend
is
taught
going
me,
on?
but not at night.
This is reminding me of What's Your Rashi? When Priyanka played every female character.
You know, he chose me out of 700 girls, sir. Some odds, isn't it? 700 to 1. Crying out loud, look at that light. He ought to be reported.
And before that, I suppose you were at college, and I was a soldier. And I was a soldier when you were a baby. And before you were born, sir, when you were nothing but a toss-up between a girl's and a boy's name, I was a soldier then.
I've read his speech. I thought they would cancel it.
Sherry, miss? Sherry, Mr. Sir?
Yes, please.
If you're worrying about sitting down with your general, then stop worrying. I'm not a general anymore.
Clive, what has happened?
Retired again. Axed. They don't need me anymore.
Because you've been educated to be a gentleman and a sportsman in peace and in war. But, Clive, this time you are fighting for your very existence against the most devilish idea ever created by a human brain. There won't be a return match next year. Perhaps not even for 100 years.
So much for the house always being there. I think we're caught up now in the timeline. Wait, does that mean the lieutenant is her boyfriend? Kind of? From the beginning? I really like the structure of this film and how it's kind of bookended by this.
We're not training to fight Englishmen.
You can't do this.
Can't I? What?
I won't let you do it. He's such a dear old man.
So will I be when I'm over the 100.
Oh, darling.
It's so interesting that they shot the entire scene again, but from her perspective.
Warn him, can't you understand English? Tell him to...
I think I'll invite him to dinner instead. Wasn't I just as much of a young fool as he is? Of course I was.
Yes. But I wonder if he's going to be such a grand old man as you are.
When I was a young chap...
Because he talked about still living there even... Yeah, they're repeating the scene right now.
And this is a lake. Now, here is the lake, and I still haven't changed.
Uh-huh. This is such a well thought out movie. Ah, I love this song. Oh, we don't know if he ever accepted the dinner invite. That was an interesting film. It covered a huge amount of time. How many wars? 3 at least? And you really felt for Candy because we kind of got to know him in the beginning. And then jumping back to when he was young, what he went through, and how he changed over the years. The final scene after the, well, rather abrupt ending to the War Games, where he's just sitting in the park, lost. But I really like that at the end, he kind of respected the lieutenant and said, you know what, no hard feelings. It's a new time. Things changed. They had some really tough, in-depth discussions, especially, I'd say, as he was being forced into retirement, basically. I thought the film was really well balanced between the battle scenes and the very quiet, contemplative thought process about war and the commentary on that. It had some very interesting things to say, but it wasn't preachy about it. And that's mostly due to some outstanding performances from the entire cast. It's quite the emotional roller coaster and just a really good movie.